Chapter 1. Velvet and Deception. The air in the Persian cafe was thick with the scent of espresso and cigarette smoke, the kind of haze that clung to the edges of whispered conversations. Outside, the city was a shadow of its former self occupied, wary, but still alive. Inside, the clink of porcelain against saucers and the low of a jazz trumpet from a crackling radio set the rhythm of the evening. It was 1944, and the world was holding its breath. Josephine Baker moved through the room like a storm dressed in silk. Her gown, the color of midnight, shimmered under the dim lights, the fabric clinging to her curves as she glided past tables of German officers and their nervous French companions. She didn't just walk, she commanded the space, her laughter, a weapon as sharp as a stiletto blade hidden in her garter. The men watched her, their eyes lingering on the way her lips curled around the rim of her champagne flute, the way her fingers traced the stem with deliberate slowness. She knew the game. Every glance, every brush of her hand against a shoulder, every lingering smile was all part of the performance. At night, her target was General Heinrich Kremer, a man whose uniform bore the insignia of power and whose mind held secrets worth killing for. He sat at a corner table, his back to the wall, his eyes scanning the room with the wariness of a predator. But when Josephine approached, his gaze softened. "You're new here," he said in French, his accent thick but his words precise. She tilted her head, letting her dark curls spill over one shoulder. New enough to still be surprised by the company. Kremer smirked. "And what company is that?" "The kind that makes a girl forget the war for a moment." She slid into the chair across from him, her knee brushing his under the table. "Or is that forbidden?" The general's fingers tightened around his glass. "Forbidden things are often the most interesting." Josephine leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Then let's be interesting." The jazz music swelled, the sultry saxophone line weaving through the air as the two of them danced in the shadows of their own deception. Kremer was no fool who knew the game as well as she did, but pride and something darker made him play along. He ordered another round of champagne, his hand lingering on hers when the glasses were set down. "You're not French," he murmured. She laughed, a sound like broken glass wrapped in velvet. "And you're not German." "Austrian," he corrected. Close enough, the conversation was. A dance, each step measured, each word. A calculated risk. Josephine listened more than she spoke, letting him reveal himself in the spaces between his sentences. He talked of his postings, of the movements of troops, of the plans for the coming weeks. She memorized every detail, every inflection, every pause that might hint at something more. But the real trap wasn't in the words. It was in the way his breath hitched when she leaned closer, in the way his fingers twitched when she traced the edge of his cuff. The seduction was the distraction, a velvet glove over the iron fist of espionage. By the time the night ended, Kremer was already half in love with her. And Josephine, she was already planning his downfall. The next morning, she would wake in her apartment, the sheets still carrying the scent of his cologne, and write down everything he had revealed, the names of informants, the routes of supply lines, the dates of troop movements, each word, a dagger in the heart of the rye. But for now, as the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, she allowed herself a moment of stillness. The war was still out there, waiting. But in this room, in this silence, she was just a woman, and he was just a man who had been played. And the game was only beginning.